Hello folks, my name is Rojo, and welcome to Wizardry 6. This is going to be a new CRPG for the channel, a new Let's Play, new series, and it's a game that I've decided to play because, one, I'm kind of on still on my old school game kick, and I wanted to play something that was older, but the world of Wizardry is seems very strange to me. I don't know a lot about it, but from what I've seen, it's largely fantasy, but with like a splash of sci-fi in there. It's a little weird, a little goofy. And I think that's something that I'd be into, and hopefully that's something you will be into as well as we kind of kick the series off. In this video, we're just going to be kind of talking about the game a little bit, making a character, and we'll also be going over sort of a setup for the game. But in the next video, we'll start the actual adventure. But what else to say about the game? The game was created in 1990, or at least it was released on PC. This version was released in 1990. This is the DOS version. It was released on other platforms as well. But yeah, Wizardry is a long-running series since well before then. Even I want to say it came out in the mid 80s, early mid 80s, something like that originally. So it's like as a franchise, it's like one of the granddaddies of the computer RPG genre, I guess you could say. And I think this game has aged maybe not so well, just overall. But it is, like I said, it's got kind of an interesting setting, and Wizardry 6 is the start of sort of a trilogy. Wizardry 7 and Wizardry 8, of course, being the other two in said trilogy. And I have an interest in maybe trying to play all the games on the channel. The one that sort of got me into this was actually Wizardry 8, which I played a little bit of, but then I realized that you could import characters from the previous games, and so really, to set up the story and to import characters, which is pretty cool, we got to play Wizardry 6 and 7 first, which I don't mind. I think it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be probably fairly challenging, but beyond that, yeah, let's go ahead and get set up with creating one of our 6 party members here. I've already created my other 5 party members. But I wanted to show some character creation, but it is a little not, I don't want to say finicky, but it's complex, and it takes some time to create a character, in part because your stats are randomly generated, and so it can take a few tries. So we are going to try to make a character called Fenpo. And there are a bunch of different races in the game. We're going to be we're going to be making a raw wolf, which is sort of like a wolf man. That should probably bring a pretty clear picture into mind of what this guy should look like. However, we are going to need some pretty good stats, I think, to make this happen. And we're trying to make him a bishop, which is a casting class. So I'm just going to skip through a lot of this stuff, and once I get to something good, we'll go ahead and like kind of continue from there, so we don't have to sit around for too long here. So I'll see you in about a moment. Okay, we've done it. I've rolled sufficient bonus points that I can create a Bishop Raw Wolf. Now, you can see there's a ton of different classes. Fighters, it's kind of typical fighters. Mage Priest are casters. Alchemist is a sort of caster as well. Functionally, pretty much just a caster. Thieves are pretty much what you expect. Rangers, bards, and like monks and lords and stuff. This is interesting. There's a lot of hybrid classes. So think of like a paladin, right? Paladin is kind of a hybrid cleric and warrior, right? And that's sort of what the Lord is. He's a warrior who gets spells from the priest's spell book at a certain level. So similarly, the monk gets some like hand-to-hand skills as you would expect, as well as an all-important critical hit skill and a hide skill that they can use in combat. But they also get psionic spells. The bards get mage spells, and the ranger gets alchemist spells. I think I have that right. And there's also a samurai class, which we will have a samurai in our party, and they get mage spells. So it's there's a lot of sort of interesting classes in this game, and the character development is fairly complex. I could spend an entire video just going over the nitty gritty of how all this works. I've done pretty extensive research, although I've not played much of the game. But I've done pretty extensive research on the character creation process and customization process, and it's as complex as you would expect to expect from a CRPG from the 90s. Let's put it that way. But anyway, so we're gonna go ahead and make ourselves a bishop. A bishop is a it's a hybrid caster in the sense that they get spells from the priest spellbook and the mage spellbook. So some offensive, some defensive. Is basically what we're looking at, but they're terrible fighters. But that is what we are going to make this guy to start out with at the very least. So you can see that took up most of our bonus stats. You'll forgive me for just one moment. I actually have to double check. What do I want to make this guy after? Right. So after, my goal anyway, is after this guy becomes sufficient level, he will become a monk for a while. And basically, there's multi-classing in the game, as I guess is obvious now. And to do that, you need a certain amount of stats, and it's fairly difficult to get into some classes. Some others are not quite so difficult. But yes, we would like this man to become a monk eventually, and that's going to be challenging. You can see that the bishop requires insanely high stats for int and piety. But we're going to go ahead and give him 2 speed and I think 1... No, that's wrong. Give him 2 strength and 1 speed, because the monk requires a lot of speed, a lot of strength. But those are going to be the kind of the main things. You get extra stat points as you level up. It's all randomized. But the reason I went with 10 strength here is because your strength, when you create the character, determines how much you can carry, and it never changes in this game. So we want to, if we have the choice, we want to kind of bump that up a little bit now. But we're going to need a lot more in the way of strength and speed before we're able to become a monk. But that's okay, because you can get multiple stat increases every time you level up. So anyway, that's all of our stats. Let's go ahead and continue here. Now we're rolling our karma. Karma is more or less meaningless, I think. I think like some people will talk to you differently depending on your karma level, the karma level of the character who's talking. And it says in the manual it affects all of your actions, so maybe it's also sort of a like a little bit of a luck stat. As you would expect in sort of traditional RPGs. So maybe it affects your chance to like resist spells or like get a crit or something. Maybe not a crit in this game, because critical hits are instant kills in this game. So it's a little bit different. But let's go ahead and give our guy a portrait here. We're gonna have to choose. You can see there's a ton of them. Also, obviously, the game is not aged terribly well. I think these are cat people. I think so. The Felper. But yeah, the game is not aged terribly well, graphics-wise, but it is part of a trilogy. I think it's like the Dark Savant trilogy or the Cosmic Forge trilogy, something like that. This game is Bane of the Cosmic Forge, as you probably saw on the title screen. My goal is to play all 3 games eventually. I think this is going to be our portrait. I don't think... I think like that's a cat person. Maybe this is a dog person. I don't know, man. But that's what we're going to go with. But yeah, this is a trilogy of games. But the interesting thing is you can import your characters from one game to the other, which I like a lot. Not too many games do it nowadays, which is a little bit kind of too bad. But, what are you going to do? Let's see. So I think we definitely want Energy Blast as basic fire spell. And this is the reason I sort of wanted to make this character. It's because it gives me an opportunity to kind of explain the way magic works. So we're going to take Energy Blast. You can see that gave us 3 fire magic points. There are 6 schools of magic in this game. And as you learn spells in each of these schools, you get magic points in them as you learn more spells and level up. So it's good to learn a lot of spells when you can, and to learn spells from different schools depending on the situation. So since he's a bishop, we are going to give him, I think, for sure, we're going to give him the attack spell Fire there. We're also going to give him Heal Wounds because we do want a healer straight away. And we want to get those magic points going as much as we can, as soon as we can. So those shall be our spells. We shall save this character. And I've prepared a sort of a little intro to the game's story. Just a little dramatic reading, if you will. But it does set the scene nicely for what will be the next video. We'll start the actual adventure itself and start exploring an abandoned castle. But without further ado, I will put that up, and then we shall see each other in the next video. So until next time, my name has been Rojo, and thanks for watching.
Nearly 120 years ago, this castle was inhabited by a most foul lord and queen who terrorized the land and its citizens for many years. Tales of bizarre rituals were commonplace, as were rumors of the king's practice with the mystical arts. Not content with his current dominion and powers, he eventually formed an alliance with another wizard, an entity whose evil matched even the king's own. Together, they sought to rule all the evil planes, and in a great magical war, by combining their powers, they began to vanquish them one by one. It was in one such battle that they first became aware of the existence of the Cosmic Forge. Having used their magical forces to defeat a demonic archdeity, they listened in delight to its last plea for life. It told them of a magical pen and of its power. When words were scripted with its point, it said they were forevermore woven into the cosmic fabric, and thus the events written came true. The king and his allies slew the demon anyway, but not before discovering the whereabouts of this wondrous instrument of power called the Cosmic Forge. Eventually, they were successful in stealing this pen for themselves, and with it began to script such horrors for the universe that no man has since imagined. It was shortly after obtaining this Cosmic Forge that the two allies became jealous of each other's power, and realizing they no longer had a need for each other, they engaged in a final climactic battle to determine the fate of themselves and of the magic pen. That was the last anyone ever heard of them. The castle has since stood vacant. No one knows what became of the king, the queen, or the wizard, or of the magic pen. But now that you are here, my friends, all that is about to change.